Hi, I am RK. We are going to discuss types of error in statistical decision making. Whenever there is an argument, you conduct statistical tests to decide whether the argument is true or not. Null hypothesis is the initial statement we are testing. So in the argument, the first statement that comes is the null hypothesis. It is believed to be true unless there is overwhelming evidence to the contrary. When two groups are statistically different, this happens. There are times when you reject the null hypothesis when you should not have rejected it. Reverse also may happen sometimes. You do not reject the null hypothesis when you should have rejected. So these mistakes are referred to as type 1 and type 2 errors. We shall go deep into these errors. Type 1 errors means false positives, that is alpha value. Please note alpha error is incorrect. Alpha itself is type 1 error. There is always a possibility of wrongly rejecting a null hypothesis when it should not have been rejected. Here we have the option of selecting, that is alpha, that's confidence level, a confidence level threshold I would say, that we will use to accept or reject the null hypothesis. This alpha is a level of trust, that is the likelihood that you will reject the null hypothesis when it is actually valid. This case is a type 1 error, referred to as false positives. It is true, but we say it is not. The null is true, we say it is not true. That is type 1 error. In hypothesis testing, you need to decide what degree of confidence, that is trust, for which you can dismiss the null hypothesis. You can set it. If you set alpha is equal to 0.05, it means there is a 5% probability that you would reject the null hypothesis when it is actually valid. In other words, you would reject the null hypothesis simply by chance once if you repeat the experiment 20 times. That is, if you do the experiment 20 times, there is a chance for rejecting the null hypothesis only once by random chance. That is, if it is true, you will reject it. In general, alpha is equal to 0.05 is adequate to show that certain findings are statistically significant. So whenever you want to do your projects, you fix alpha is equal to 0.05. That is enough to show that your findings are significant. We will see type 2 errors. These are called false negatives. It's called beta. It is the possibility of you are not rejecting the null when it is actually incorrect. It is beta and referred to as false negatives. Beta is linked to power. Power is the likelihood of rejecting it when it is actually false. When the null is false, you rightly reject it. That is called power. When selecting a test, we always select the power level we want and get type 2 error from that. Which one is more important, type 1 or type 2 error? It depends upon the situations. The two errors are inversely related. If alpha you fix more, then beta will be less. So if you want beta to be more, alpha will be less, right? So if you want the power to be more, beta will be less and alpha will be more. If you fix alpha is less, beta will be more. What is the question here? Which error would be safer is the question here. We will see two scenarios. Scenario 1, you are on a jury. You need to determine if an individual, that is accused, is to be sent to jail for a crime. You do not know the truth as to whether or not this person is committed a crime. You do not know the truth as to whether or not the person committed a crime. I am sure type 1 error is worst here. Type 1 error suggests that if he is not really guilty, you would send him to jail. You would not want to make type 2 error also, as it means someone actually committed a crime and as a jury you are letting him go as free, get away with it, which is not correct. Scenario 2, you consider you are a doctor. A patient with multiple migraine headaches is referred to you for an MRI scan. You believe that brain tumor may be present in the patient. What type of error is worst here? Type 1 or type 2? Type 1 error occurs when you say he is having tumor when he actually has not. Type 2 error occurs when you say there is nothing wrong with him while there is a brain tumor in him. The null hypothesis is that the person does not have a brain tumor. This null is not denied even though it is genuinely far away from it. You decide on risk of type 1 and type 2 error. Prepare for whatever type of error you want to mitigate, reduce. Then design the experiment and make choices about the degrees of alpha level and power. So you want this alpha level and this power. This you decide. Then you conduct the hypothesis testing. I hope you have understood something about type 1 and type 2 errors. And type 1 error is fixed first. Alpha is fixed and beta can be calculated. So here is a screen showing the calculations. A template is there. We will provide a template. You can download the template from the description and play with it and learn. Thank you very much.